This is the most high-octane horror flick of the year. On her very first night working at a top-tier luxury apartment, she hears a bizarre noise echoing from the air conditioning vent. Upon moving closer to investigate, she is horrified to find a human face faintly hidden inside the vent, causing her entire body to freeze in terror. Just then, an eerie burst of laughter suddenly erupts from outside the door. She rushes out to check, only for the hallway lights to cut out in a sudden and ghostly fashion. Enveloped in darkness, she abruptly recalls the supervisor's warning, "Do not wander around after 10 p.m." Rewinding to an hour ago, Isabel rings the doorbell of The Virgil, a high-end luxury apartment in New York. She received notice a month ago that today would be her official start date at this elite residence for the wealthy. But the moment she steps into the building, she notices something peculiar about the locks, wondering why there are so many of them. Given that this is one of New York's premier luxury buildings, Isabel doesn't let her mind dwell on it too much. However, strange occurrences follow one after another as the supervisor, Lily, informs her that to ensure the absolute privacy of the residents, servants are strictly forbidden from carrying cell phones or any communication devices. Even more baffling to Isabel is that when she enters the staff quarters on the first floor, she sees some maids dining in the kitchen while muttering strange words about offerings. What exactly is an offering? Isabel is filled with doubt. Lily explains that this is a traditional building ceremony and that tonight, one maid will receive a special reward. As they speak, they arrive at Isabel's room, where Lily's husband, Ray, unexpectedly rushes out while hurriedly explaining he was just there to clear some trash before making a hasty exit. After instructing Isabel to absolutely avoid wandering around at night, Lily departs. Following a long day of travel, Isabel decides to take a shower, but as the steam gradually fills the bathroom, a line of writing slowly emerges on the mirror. Translated, it chillingly reads, "They will unalive you." But in the next moment, as water droplets continue to fall, the marks on the mirror have vanished by the time Isabel steps out. The moment she leaves the bathroom, the eerie events mentioned earlier unfold. First, the anomaly in the vent, followed by the hallway lights cutting out. Fortunately, the emergency lights kick in just in time. Yet, Isabel can clearly sense a figure quietly approaching from behind. Shaken to her core, she immediately charges back into her room and uses a chair to jam the doorknob shut. She sits on the bed, staring intently at the vent while subconsciously fiddling with a lighter in her hand. By the time 3 a.m. rolls around, the exhausted Isabel finally loses the battle with sleep and drifts off. But a second later, the doorknob is violently twisted by someone outside. Thanks to the obstruction of the chair, the door fails to open, but the person outside does not leave. Immediately after, the vent in the room rattles again, and that human face reappears. Seeing Isabel fast asleep, the refrigerator begins to shake violently, yet she remains completely oblivious. Until the next moment, when an intruder slowly walks to the bedside and, staring at Isabel's twitching toes, performs a disgusting and lewd act. Isabel seems to sense something and slowly pulls her foot back. The man then quietly circles to her side, and a drop of saliva falls onto her face. Waking with a start, Isabel senses something is wrong and slowly lowers her head to check under the bed. She naturally finds nothing, as the man has already circled behind her. The masked intruder suddenly strikes, grabbing Isabel, but he never expects her to fight back so desperately that she slams his neck against the corner of the table, counter-killing him on the spot. However, as Isabel looks at the handkerchief in his hand, she realizes too late that she has likely inhaled some kind of sedative. Just then, another urgent sound of the door being forced open rings out. With her consciousness fading, Isabel knows she must fight to the death to survive, and her gaze immediately locks onto the clock and lamp on the table. At that moment, the sounds at the door become even more frantic. The vent is forcefully pried open, and another intruder leaps into the room. Isabel uses every ounce of her strength to crawl forward as more and more masked intruders pour into the room. Fortunately, she manages to reach the table and yank the cord from the lamp. But as the sedative takes full effect, she can no longer hold on and collapses to the floor. The intruders surround her, dissatisfied as they complain about the first casualty, mentioning that they heard he had violated girls before they died, which seems to be true. As they speak, they open the door to let more of their comrades in. A woman tries to move Isabel, but she fails to realize that Isabel pulling out the lamp cord was a premeditated move for a counterattack all along. In the next second, Isabel let out a roar and charges into the closet, leaving the intruders completely bewildered by the sheer combat prowess of their prey as they attempt to persuade her to stop resisting, claiming it is futile. Meanwhile, the unconscious comrades regain their senses one after another, surrounding her with makeshift clubs made from table legs. Seeing that his team is ready, Kevin abruptly swings the closet door open and bursts into laughter at the sight of Isabel huddled like a lamb to the slaughter. But Isabel laughs too. As a spray of blood marks the air, Kevin's head simply falls off. This is because Isabel's rush to the closet was actually to retrieve a hidden machete and a prepared shotgun. With the thunderous roar of the shotgun, another intruder is taken out. Isabel then charges into the crowd of intruders, and amidst her agile maneuvers, yet another one is neutralized. The opposition tries to use their superior numbers to surround her, but Isabel isn't foolish. She dives under the bed and then charges out while using the mattress as a shield. In the next moment, but the surviving Sharon spots the shotgun on the floor. As Isabel retreats, she immediately hears the sound of a round being chambered. Luckily, she ducks just in time to avoid the blast. Next, Isabel's true hunting hour begins because the shotgun has run out of ammunition, and a realizing Sharon steps forward to engage her in direct, hand-to-hand combat. While they are locked in a struggle, the injured Bob seizes the opportunity to throw a dagger at Isabel, only to accidentally strike Sharon instead. Sharon is subsequently taken down by Isabel. Seeing things take a turn for the worse, Bob immediately tries to run for his life, but there is no way he can outrun Isabel. Just as Isabel is about to deliver the finishing blow, the manager, Lily, suddenly appears while clapping her hands. Lily suggests that Isabel must have been hiding her true background. Isabel counters by asking if they aren't doing the exact same thing. So who exactly is Isabel? Isabel's real name is actually Asia, and now we begin to tell the story of Asia's past. Unable to endure her beastly father, 17-year-old Asia took her 10-year-old sister Maria and ran away from home 10 years ago. While they were hiding from the rain in a shop, their father caught up to them. Asia immediately tries to flee with her sister, only to find that her father had already arranged for friends to intercept them. Seeing no way out, Asia indignantly draws a gun. Her father bets that Asia won't dare to fire, but he completely underestimates her decisiveness. Seeing her father get shot, the sister immediately tries to run with Asia, but unexpectedly, the father grabs her foot. With the police arriving, Asia hesitates briefly before turning to flee, leaving her sister in a state of infinite disappointment. Of course, Asia cannot outrun a police car. She is sentenced to 10 years in prison, while Maria is left under the father's guardianship. In the women's prison, Asia eventually becomes a dominant force through her sheer ruthlessness. Before her release, her lawyer finally tracks down news of Maria. Following their father's death this year, Maria has mysteriously vanished. She immediately tracks Maria's cell phone signal, only to find that the last place she disappeared was this luxury apartment building, the Virgil. According to the lawyer, the servants in this building are mostly homeless people, illegal immigrants, or minorities, so no one cares if they suddenly vanish. Furthermore, the people here are very powerful, so even if there are leads, the police wouldn't dare to ask too many questions. However, the lawyer secretly discovered that a maid named Isabel was scheduled to start working at the building next month. So, upon her release, Asia immediately tracked down this woman named Isabel. She has come to find her sister, and if Maria is still alive, they must hand her over. Lily understands everything. Asia has come for the sake of her sibling and her family, but Asia doesn't realize that Lily also has a family to care for, and her family is anything but ordinary. With that, she gestures for Asia to look behind her. The man whose limbs Asia had already severed unexpectedly reappears, bouncing along while holding his own detached hands and feet. Right behind him are the attackers she thought she had killed, and even the decapitated Kevin walks out while carrying his own head. What happens next is miraculous. As Kevin places his head back onto his neck, and the others align their severed limbs with the stumps, they magically reattach themselves. Immediately, a maid charges at Asia, screaming that she is about to earn a great merit. Asia retreats into a nearby room in total terror, but the maid's son rushes in angrily, claiming she hurt his mother. Then, Asia looks through the peephole in shock, The resurrection of these people proves that this place is not the simple den of vice she imagined. Aware of the pain in her body, she immediately smashes a mirror and uses a shard to inspect her wounds. Lily's voice rings out at the same time. To save her sister, she must first save herself, so Asia desperately pounds on the window glass, only to discover it is explosion-proof. Recalling the passage in her room, she pulls open the refrigerator, but there is no door there, and even the ventilation ducts are incredibly reinforced. There is no passage here, but Asia refuses to believe it. Suddenly, she realizes something. She hasn't checked the floor yet. Sure enough, there is a trap door hidden beneath the carpet. To escape for her life, she has no choice but to crawl inside. But in the next moment, she hears the people hunting her talking behind the walls. They intend to capture her quietly before the ritual begins, and their immortality actually has a weakness. Though they cannot be unalived, the pain of every injury is very real.
Put it together. We owe an offering tonight. I have to find her.
Asia tries to listen more closely, but the slight sound of flipping through a book gives her away. Those hunting her have all gathered right here. Quick-witted, Asia immediately reaches back to pull the cabinet door shut, but in the next moment, it turns out they must keep her alive because they intend to use her as a sacrifice. Just then, Asia's palm is pierced by a knife. The opponent rushes forward excitedly, stating that Asia could have avoided this pain, but she insisted on running away. Of course she has to run, because if she doesn't, she becomes a sacrifice. Asia desperately pulls her hand free, cursing as she tries to flee, with the opponent in hot pursuit. And so, inside this cramped passage, a life and death chase begins. Asia is ultimately not as familiar with the terrain as Sharon, and is quickly intercepted by a shortcut. Without a moment's hesitation, Asia kicks Sharon, and then drives a needle into Sharon's palm. Remembering there are more enemies ahead, Asia immediately grabs a firearm to leave, but to her surprise, Sharon has already resurrected and directly restrains her.
Sick of you carrying me!
Surely she must be dead this time, yet Sharon unexpectedly stands up again, proving she can live even without a head. Asia retreats in pure terror. Fortunately, upon reaching a fork in the road, the headless Sharon seems to lose her sense of direction. Just as Asia is struggling to catch her breath, Lily's husband, Ray, suddenly covers her mouth. In the next moment, another attacker comes pursuing them. It turns out Ray is there to help her, and he asks if she saw the writing he left behind. As it turns out, this building is actually a temple to Satan. Over 100 years ago, the founder discovered a way to communicate with another dimension and entered into a pact with the Satan from that realm. They would sacrifice one living person every month, and in return, Satan would grant them immortality, requiring only that their names be written on Satan's list. Since the members here are already powerful and wealthy, unaliving one homeless person or minority a month and covering it up is child's play for them. And Isabel, who started her job tonight, is that unfortunate sacrifice. Furthermore, these people can survive independently even if only a patch of skin remains. As they speak, Sharon's eyeballs have already spotted Ray and Asia as they depart. Ray is currently leading Asia to escape through the passage, and that eyeball is following closely, jumping from the floor to the ceiling with a single bounce. Meanwhile, while navigating the escape passage, Asia passes a vent and witnesses a scene that leaves her utterly shocked.
Memories.
Ray quickly leads her to a room where a maid is currently being held captive. To Asia's absolute disbelief, it turns out to be her sister, Maria, the very person she has been searching for so desperately. She had once believed Maria was dead, but she never expected this. Maria knows exactly what this means. Now, we dive into Maria's storyline. After her older sister was sentenced, Maria went back to a life of abuse at the hands of their father, who would vent his rage on her whenever he was in a foul mood. Not only that, but all the money Maria worked so hard to earn was squandered by him on gambling. That night, Maria got off work late and happened to spot a recruitment notice for the Virgil Apartments on the side of the road. With nowhere else to go, Maria was on the verge of a terrible fate. But it just so happened that a maid had been fired for theft that day, so they decided to bring Maria into the fold. This is the reason why Maria stayed. She coldly tells Asia that this place is her warm home and she isn't going anywhere, adding that while she needed her as a child, Asia truly abandoned her that night. Asia is left in utter disbelief. Ray informs Asia that her only way out is the fire escape on the 9th floor rooftop. Right then, that eyeball is targeted by a mosquito. Asia angrily picks it up, and then... However, Asia's location has been compromised, forcing Ray to lead her in a frantic escape, and he even stays behind to face them alone just to buy her some time. Meanwhile, Asia rushes to the kitchen on the top floor, but as she carries her sister down through the elevator shaft, she accidentally bumps into a griddle. Bob quickly arrives to investigate, but luckily, Asia hides in a cabinet just in time. But in the next moment, Maria wakes up. Just as they think Bob has left, it turns out to be a feint on his part. As it looks like Asia is about to be knocked unconscious by Bob, another twist occurs. It is actually Maria who steps in to help. At the same time, the supervisor Lily immediately begins a broadcast. It turns out Maria still loves her sister most, and previously just didn't want her to stay and face danger. So she is now prepared to lead her sister through the elevator shaft to escape. But unexpectedly, Bob resurrects once again. Seeing him closing in, Asia immediately runs upward. They finally make it to the top floor with great difficulty, only to find that Supervisor Lily is already waiting there with her people. Asia suddenly realizes they need her alive as a sacrifice, so she threatens to jump down the elevator shaft unless they let her sister go.
So selfish and so misguided.
Lily just laughs, asking if Asia still hasn't grasped the truth, specifically how her sister was able to stay here in the first place. It turns out tonight is the moment Lily gets to write her name for immortality, with the price being the sacrifice of a life. And Isabel, whom Asia is replacing, was the sacrifice they had already prepared. Maria never wanted to hurt anyone, but in this hellhole, she simply had no other choice. Therefore, the reward mentioned earlier was actually Maria's reward all along. Having realized the full truth, Asia's heart instantly turns to ash. Realizing that everything she did was in vain, Asia's tears of sorrow begin to fall. But unexpectedly, Bob grabs her in the next moment. Asia is quickly taken to a secret room on the top floor. Right in the center is, surprisingly, a pig's head surrounded by candles. Satan actually likes pig heads? Asia can't help but scoff. Then Lily takes Asia's blood and walks over to the pig's head. As if catching the scent of blood, a dark shadow suddenly appears from the barrier behind. As the shadow passes through the candles and possesses the pig's head, the pig's eyes snap open. It sees right through Ray's betrayal at a single glance. Lily immediately pleads for her husband, claiming Ray was just momentarily confused and felt pity for the girl. But the pig's head shows no mercy, directly erasing Ray's name from the top of its head. Just as Ray feels his shackles fall away, the pig's head orders Lily to unalive Ray, or she will be the one to die. After a brief hesitation, Lily walks toward Ray. Her choice is to unalive her lover, Ray. The pig's head then orders Maria to come forward, write her name, and then unalive Asia, or she too will die. Asia slowly shakes her head, but Maria walks toward it anyway. Maria picks up the pen beside the pig's head and writes down a name. To everyone's shock, Maria actually ends her own life, even though she could have gained eternal life. At this moment, everyone is stunned. Just as Asia angrily grabs a knife, the pig's head realizes the truth. The name Maria left on its head was Asia's. Unexpectedly, Asia slices off the piece of pigskin with her name on it with a single stroke. In this instant, everyone is shocked to discover that the wounds on Asia's body have vanished. To unalive her, they must reclaim that piece of pigskin. But Asia's combat skills were already extraordinary before she gained immortality, and now with a superpowered healing factor, these attackers are even less of a match for her. With a swift flurry of her blade, the people on the scene are quickly dealt with, each dying in a different gruesome way. Lily immediately cries out to the pig's head for help. A moment later, a stunned Asia, having just finished off her opponents, realizes that the pig's head has possessed the supervisor, Lily. Although Lily is possessed by Satan, it is only an avatar. So while Asia faces many close calls and even sustains heavy injuries, she quickly finds a weakness, rips the pig's head off, and then slams Supervisor Lily into the air, where she is impaled by a wooden stake. As for the pig's head, it is soon drenched in gasoline by Lily. Just as the pig's head is set ablaze, the subordinates who were about to resurrect die off one after another the moment they come back. In the end, a resentful Lily makes her final statement. Soon, the cultists waiting downstairs see a grand feast, a roasted pig's head. At this moment, everyone loses the ability to resurrect infinitely. Asia then emerges carrying her sister and offers them some friendly advice. Outside the door, the lawyer is waiting for Asia. He originally thought Maria was dead, but Asia pulls out that piece of pigskin, revealing that before leaving, she had changed the name on it to Maria, causing her sister to resurrect instantly. In this moment, they hold each other in a tight embrace. If you enjoy these types of movies, you should definitely check out the original film for the full experience, and I'll see you in the next one.